Hey guys, welcome to Purpose of Trade. Today I've got a video for you. It's a little different paced video, but it has to do with the tragic racially motivated massacre that took place in South Carolina in the last few weeks. And it really does pain me to have to do this video. On the news I watched a lot of adults get up and voice their opinion and debate over, racial issues in the South that still prevail. However, I didn't see any youth or millennials standing up saying anything, and I felt like, as a citizen, I needed to stand up and say something and voice my opinion. And some people may dislike me for this, but I don't really care. It's something I need to do. And after watching this, I hope that a lot of other people will stand up and voice their opinion too. Make it public. Let people know how you truly feel about the issue. And you know what? I do feel like I have a right, and so should every other American. They should feel the right to stand up and say something about this issue. Specifically, I feel like an authority on the subject because I am half black, I am half white, I've lived in the Midwest, I've lived down in the South, I've experienced racism firsthand, I've been told not to date a white girl, I've been threatened to be lynched before, I've been told that I can't go to a water park because I'm black, right? So these are things that I've dealt with in my life recently. This is 2000s we're talking about. Okay, tradition and heritage, let's get to the facts, this should be fun. The Confederate flag you see here, the one that has stirred up this whole debate, actually was never the Confederate flag. Between 1861 to 1865, they flew 3 different flags, none of them being the one you're familiar with now. The first national flag was the Stars and Bars. It was replaced because on the battlefield it was easily confused with the Union flag. The second was the Stainless Banner, which was replaced because oftentimes on the battlefield it was confused with the flag of truce. And the third and final flag was the blood-stained banner, which in my opinion wasn't all that aesthetically pleasing. But anyways, isn't it funny? None of these national Confederate flags are the ones you see people flying from their trucks. So where's the heritage they're trying to protect? If you truly want to honor your ancestors, then why don't you hang up one of the 3 national Confederate flags on your trailer? Seeing as those are the flags your ancestors fought under and bravely defended, right? Not making too much sense. If this whole debate is about tradition, why not freaking go with tradition? It's because you know as well as I do, it's not about tradition. It's never been about tradition. The truth is the Confederate flag we know became popular in the 1940s, 50s, and more so in the 60s, a time when the federal government was trying to bring about nationwide integration. Now, seeing as the South didn't agree with desegregation, they rallied around the Virginia battle flag, or what we know as the Confederate flag, and used it as a sign to say, yeah, we don't mix with blacks. So when you tell me that the flag has nothing to do with race, it makes me just want to slap you back to the 1940s. Of course it's racial. Let's just read a little history real quick on the issue. In the late 1940s, the flag was adopted as a symbol of the Dixiecrats, a political party devoted to, among other things, maintaining segregation. They also opposed President Harry S. Truman's proposal to instate anti-discrimination laws and make lynching a federal crime. So let's get this right. The rebel battle flag surfaces because this political party is pissed about integration of blacks in their society and things like federal laws against lynching? I mean, we are talking about the freaking 1940s. An era and time in America known as developed and prospering. I can just picture 2 hicks sitting around. Hey, damn it, Jimmy. Did you hear the news? That Negro-loving person ain't gonna allow us to hang damn Negroes no more. Well, shoot. Tell the boys gotta find something else to do this weekend. What in the world? This is 1940. It's ludicrous to think that people would get angry that you couldn't lynch blacks anymore. Even Ole Miss, arguably one of the most infamous schools when it comes to racism, rarely displayed the battle flag as a symbol prior to 1948. In 1962, when Ole Miss admitted its first black student, riots broke out. And it was at that point that the Confederate flag became a popular fixture at the university to show that they believed in segregation. So once again, tell me the display of this flag is not racially motivated. John M. Koski writes, the university began heavily incorporating the symbol into school activities and events a few months after students protested against Truman's civil rights proposals. Now, in good old South Carolina, the flag was first flown over the Senate Capitol Dome in 1962. Wonder what was going on during that time. Maybe civil rights movement, school desegregation. Now, you know what? Let's go to Alabama. In 1963, Alabama Governor George Wallace raises the flag over the state capitol in protest against desegregation. We could go on and on about other southern states, but the point remains the same. The battle flag since the Civil War was not a permanent fixture in Southern society, nor had flown over the Capitol until the 1960s Civil Rights era. These states were admittedly against desegregation. There's no doubt about it. The flag was placed on those domes for no other reason than to say, we don't want black people. All right. Now I know there are some hicks sitting on his computer watching this saying, hey Billy, none of this is true, is it? I swear the Negro on the computer's telling me lies. Well, let me have the beloved Southern Georgia State tell you. Now, the Georgia State Senate Research Office found that the integration of the battle flag into the Georgia State flag in 1956 was racially motivated. And I'm sure Mississippi's incorporation of the battle flag in their state flag was racially motivated as well. Of course it's about race. That's what it's always been about. So when people make stupid, ignorant comments that is about anything but race, it makes me want to slap you. So when Bill O'Reilly makes a stupid comment defending the Confederate flag, saying it represents historical bravery, I say, please tell me what is historically brave or noble about enslaving, dehumanizing a race. What is brave about raping, abusing, lynching, and killing slaves? And we aren't going to put it subtly or beat around the bush. That's the true cold hard reality of slavery. So let's end this discussing whether or not the Civil War was about anything but slavery. And since I'm just a Negro who is obviously biased, let's actually read some excerpts from the Declaration of States who seceded and their reasoning for doing so. Because to me, they were very clear. Let's hear from the states why they seceded. We'll talk about South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, just to name a few. Let's go ahead and begin with South Carolina. Quote, states north of that line have united in the election of a man to the high office of President of the United States, whose opinions and purposes are hostile to slavery. Unquote. Alright, what does Mississippi have to say why they secede? Quote, our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. Unquote. Alright, how about you, Louisiana? Why'd you secede? Quote, the people of the slave-holding states are bound together by the same necessity and determination to preserve African slavery. Unquote. Alright, sounding pretty clear. Hey Texas, what do you have to say? Why'd you secede? Quote, the servitude of the African race, as existing in these states, is mutually beneficial to both bond and free, and is abundantly authorized and justified by the experience of mankind. Unquote. And people want to celebrate this? They want to celebrate and remember a shameful, dark moment in history in which slavery was endorsed? There's nothing American about the Confederate flag. They fought against and left the United States. They were the most unpatriotic individuals in the Union. That's why they seceded. I don't know about you all, but is this coming through clear? Let's clear it up even more. Both the Vice President and the President of the Confederacy mentioned on several occasions it was slavery. Just Google it, people. Let's have John S. Mosey, the Confederate commander, explain it in his own words. I never heard of any other cause than slavery. So don't come at me saying the Confederate flag represents your heritage and that you fly it to remember that heritage. That's the biggest slap in my face, because that heritage enslaved, sold, raped, and lynched my ancestors. I would still be a slave if your heritage was the norm. Your heritage represents an oppressive moment in time for blacks. Thank God your heritage is being exposed for what it really is. And if I were you, I would be ashamed to claim that as my heritage with pride. That's like a German flying a Nazi flag because their great-grandfather was a concentration camp officer and they want to honor their heritage. You see how ludicrous that is? There would be no discussion on how inappropriate and racist it would be. The mere fact that it still flies in 2015, that we must still debate and fight over this, is sickening and shows the disgusting ignorance that still plagues this country. You see all these flags, they represent the same thing, division and hate. And as a loyal, proud American, I would not have my government align itself or propel hatred and division through flying that flag on government land. Now, if you want to fly that on any of these racially motivated flags at your personal residence, go on ahead. That's your freedom of speech. If anything, it will help us identify the most ignorant, backward, and racist individuals in society. So in a nutshell, the debate isn't complicated. If you fly the Confederate flag, you either A, don't understand what the flag stands for and therefore ignorantly following blindly, or B, do understand and therefore are a racist. Either way, the flag has no place in a country built for all. Now, I hope you guys as well will voice your opinion about the matter. Feel free to comment down below in the section if you've experienced any racism.